because you can either find out whether a product will work before or after you start running ads to the product. And let me tell you from my own experience that one way is much more profitable and lucrative in the long term than the other.
Today, we're going to be peeling back the curtain on some of the unspoken truths in dropshipping. Imagine if you had a perfect roadmap to success before you even started. Well, today, if you listen through to the end of this video, you'll be getting exactly that from Lewis. So he'll give you a roadmap to what he wished he knew before he started dropshipping. So I'm excited to dive into this one today. We're not just going to talk about tips either today. We want to talk about the massive success-driving, needle-moving things that Lewis wishes he knew to speed up his road to success. So, Lewis, are you ready to dive in? And we'll go straight in with the first one whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm keen to share these lessons with you today just so that they weren't in vain. The first thing I'd say is that product validation must be done before you start running ads, before you start thinking about making sales, because you can either find out whether a product will work before or after you start running ads to the product. And let me tell you from my own experience that one way is much more profitable and lucrative in the long term than the other. You can waste a lot of money if you start running ads to products that haven't been validated through a validation criteria system. So go through niche validation before you set up your ad campaigns. We have so many people who have come up to me after listening to the podcast and they've said that they aren't ready to jump in yet as they've already picked their product and they just want to get that off the ground first. And once that happens, then they'll come to us and begin working with us at Dropship Unlocked. And I'm like, okay, good luck with it. I hope it goes well. But 99% of the time I get a message, 2-3 months later where I kind of follow up and we'll say how did it go? Are you ready to go yet? And they'll say, no, it didn't quite work out. I kind of threw in the towel, gave up with that. And so what happens when you break it down is they get all excited. They're ready to go. They want to be an entrepreneur. They know e-commerce dropshipping is the way they want to do it. They've built a great site. They're ready to launch. They're all amped up, ready to go. And sometimes they even find it really easy to sign suppliers as well, which they're kind of surprised about. And they think, I've signed suppliers. I've got everything ready. I've found all the moving parts. But when it comes time to run ads, which maybe is like a month in or 2 months in, they start spending. And they watch their ad account start to spend, whether it's Google ads or Facebook ads or TikTok ads or whatever ad platform, and it's spending, and they just can't make any sales. But even sometimes what's worse is they do make some sales and it gives them like a sense of false hope. Because when they do make sales, they're so few and far between and they're so unprofitable that it kind of masks the bigger problem that actually they're just losing money the whole time here. And the problematic thing here is that they're left scratching their heads afterwards because the ads don't tell you why they weren't working effectively. They'll just keep taking your money, these huge conglomerate multinational ad platforms. They'll just keep taking the money, right? So what's sad is most of the time as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, we end up just writing off the business model because we kind of say, I didn't work. I threw maybe $5,000 in ads into it and it didn't work, So anyway, back to my old life, back to my old job, dreams crushed, back to reality. But it could have been so different for them because if at that moment where they were considering seeking support, they'd acted and they'd realized that actually maybe there's a few things here that I'm not aware of yet before I become wedded and fixated on a specific product or type of niche that I want to sell in. Maybe if, for example, with our 9-step niche validation system, if they'd have just put the ideas they had through that system, it would have allowed them to verify their niche, verify which products to sell before they even launched their store and considered running an ad or spending a penny on any paid marketing channel. And what that means is then later, when it comes time to running ads, they are set to make profitable sales once they launch. So it takes a lot of the guesswork and the pitfalls out of it. And just we see that time and time again. So I'd say that's lesson number one.
And that knowledge is power, because as soon as you have that knowledge and you know that the failure was down to picking a product and sending traffic to those products before validating it, then you realize that it isn't just the whole business model that doesn't work. You can actually realize that it was just the products that you were trying to sell. You hadn't validated that they were going to be successful in the first place. So that was the reason for the failure. And I went through that. I wish I'd known this before I started. But I was so keen to start setting up an ad campaign and start selling that I just saw the first product I saw on AliExpress that I knew I could get a decent margin on, which was only a £10 profit. And I just thought, well, great, I've got a product and I know that I can sell it. But I was just doing that based on a gut instinct. But now I know that if you want to make real money and if you don't want to waste and spend thousands on ads, you need to do that research up front. And so that's definitely a lesson that I would also completely say that is a crucial one before you go into starting a dropshipping business. So what would you say is point number 2?
Point number 2 would be that you can't force unpopular products onto a market. Even if you invest heavily in ads, you can't out marketing spend your way from a bad product or an unpopular product. I mean, you can, but it will be extremely expensive and very, very difficult to make profitable. You could probably pour millions of pounds into it and eventually something will stick and someone will buy, but it makes it very, very difficult to make a profit. And it's like you're fighting an uphill battle. You might as well go with the path of least resistance and just go with more popular products. You know, there was a story I told on a podcast recently where I was in Brazil and I was at the beach and there was the guy, you probably heard it. If you haven't, it was a guy coming down the beach with a chest full of ice. And I was thinking, what's he got in there? And he was like wheeling it along and it was full of beers and cold soft drinks and ice water and stuff like that. Perfect. Dehydrated beach sunbathers, like that's exactly what they wanted. The product was in demand. He wasn't fighting an uphill battle. And I gave the example of, imagine if he'd pulled up and said, right, I've got like woolly thermal scarves and gloves and hats here, you know, like winter hats. He's not going to be getting people surrounding him, paying him money. He's trying to force unpopular products on a market. He could have a megaphone and be shouting about those hats. Doesn't matter how loud he shouts. He's not going to create that demand, is he? Or if he is, he's got a really big job on his hand because it's just not the market for it. And so sometimes the way that this materializes or manifests in a business like this, in an e-commerce business, dropshipping store, is that we'll sign a supplier on one of our stores and we'll start running ads to it. And I'll be like, it's going to crush it. It's going to do so well. This supplier, I can tell they're just going to nail it, you know. And then you set it live and it's just crickets. It's like no one buys. And it just, they just sit there on the shelf, on the metaphorical shelves. And it's really difficult because we then signed a different supplier and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's another supplier. I don't think they're going to do that well, but sign them. Let's get the products uploaded. And then suddenly it's like, bam, 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 3-4 products of those suppliers being sold per day. And I never saw it coming. And it's because I had a subconscious bias that I believed that the other brand was going to be more popular, but for some reason it wasn't. And so be very wary if you think you know what the market wants before you've tested what the market wants. There's no difference in strategy. It's just that the second supplier's products were popular. So 2 or 3 sales per day. Well, if those are high ticket sales at £150 profit per sale, per item, per sale, that might be £600 in profit per day, you know, to forward 4 quick emails from your phone, all because you gave the market what they wanted and you lent into what they wanted and said, yep, I'm happy to provide the market with what they demand, rather than trying to force this other thing that I'm passionate about that I think will work onto the market by just pouring ads